while raising pre-seed, and I'll have more context in a bit, and building the platform not ready in the dev phase, how important do you believe it is to gain waiting customers on the waitlist? Okay.
I don't believe it is. I don't. I believe that a wait list is a bit of a fallacy. I mean, like, ask yourself, like, do you want to be on a wait list? That's not fun. That's not valuable, right? There was a time where, like, there was some urgency created. If you remember, like, Instagram was invite only at one point.
Yes.
Right? You had to be on the wait list. Okay. That was absolutely false scarcity that they created. And fine. Most products do not have such a thing, right? Most products do not have an ability to create false scarcity. But I'm not saying don't start talking to your population, but build audience, not a wait list. The problem with a wait list is you go out, you make yourself sound important, you get somebody excited, and then you tell them to wait. Ed, you've got kids. How much do you hype something well before it's going to happen?
I never.
Yeah, because you're just going to deal with it. You're just going to deal with it so that's worst case. They're going to complain at you every day until it happens. With customers, typically what's going to happen is become less and less and less and less relevant, right? Unless there's some other way you're engaging. Now, if we broaden the concept a bit and we say, like, let's take the word waitlist out of it. I don't want to pick on the term, but let's take waitlist out of it. And let's just say audience. There is no wrong time to build audience. As soon as you can, well pre-product. Even in the idea phase, before you even know what you're going to go build, you should and can be building audience. How? Go back to the very first thing we said, Ed, value.
Let's debate this because I know founders are hearing this from all different angles, especially when they're trying to raise funding and all these things. So when does it become really relevant? When is it de-risk an investment? So here's a few stories for you, Ryan, and break this apart. So I'm going to throw more at you here.
Sure.
There's a story of a founder who had this idea of shipping ugly fruit. So the fruit that falls on the ground.
Yep.
And so what he did is he hung out with farmers and he said, hey, at these like pick and go places. And he said, what do you do with all this fruit? And they said, we throw it away or we feed it to the animals. And he said, well, can I buy it at a discount for you? Would you let me do that? He said, yes. And then he thought, man, this is a great startup idea, but he didn't know if it was just him. So he went out and spent, I believe, $150,000 on Google Ads. He maxed out all his credit cards. I do not recommend this whatsoever. But he spent $150,000 and he got, like, I can't remember. I was watching the documentaries, like 30 or 40,000 people that said, yeah, I'd buy ugly fruit from you. And here's my email. And he got that. And then a VC saw that, quote, wait list, which really was a validation list, and said, all right, this looks like a good business model, paid off his credit cards and gave him a few $100,000. And it became like a multi-billion-dollar company, right? Okay, so first. Second, I've seen, and you brought up a very important factor, true supply-demand scarcity. I have been on wait lists for things like back in the day, and this, by no means do I recommend it, but back in the day, I'd sign up for lists to be the first to be informed on buying an NFT or getting in on the initial crypto drop because I know there's a scarce supply, and I know that I have an opportunity to buy up the scarcity right away, and it was legitimate. So that's my second example. Now, the third example is that I do know founders, and this could go to your audience building, that have built like 2 million people on their Instagram, putting out stuff that their app would do just in like memes or little posts. And they got $3 million from an investor saying, based on your 2 million followers alone, we believe that you can get to market. So these are all the stories that we hear, Ryan. Break it down for us. How do we make sense of what works for our startup specifically?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so a couple things there. One, we always have to think about the window of opportunity. Like, when are we relevant to somebody? So the shipping of ugly fruit one, okay, maybe it's the exception that proves the rule. But even there, one of the things I'll say is that the desire for that to happen doesn't necessarily fade with time. If you're willing to do that then, you might be willing to do that in the future. There's another alternative for that, I guess, sort of, kind of. I'd want to understand a lot more about that example before I really weigh in, like, what actually ended up happening in the end. But again, you point out some really specific examples where what they were actually doing, they weren't building customer lists. They were building demand signaling to go get VC funding. Not the same thing. Exactly. Not the same thing. So as I read the question, it was gain waiting customers on a wait list.
Yep.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So we're talking about customers, right? So here's the problem. That's a rapidly depreciating asset. Right? When you build that. It's a rapidly depreciating asset. Yeah, gain waiting customers on the way. That was what I keyed on. So these are people that they want to buy. They are less likely to buy as time goes on. So it depends on how long the wait is, all that stuff. My real point is, don't waste your shot with them doing that. Give them something of value. All right. Some of the other examples that you gave, the NFT, for example, the scarcity is the value.
Exactly.
So you are selling the value there. By letting people on the wait list, that is the value. So that's very different than building a wait list of our product isn't ready. come back in 3 months when it is, and we'll tell you about it. Of course you can do that. But if you could instead, and it's going to depend on the business, right? For a fruit selling business, pretty bizarre. Yeah, is there a lot of ramp up there? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It depends on what those other people's problems were. Like, why did they want to buy that fruit in the first place? Was it because they cared about the environment? Was it because they wanted to pay less for fruit? Was it because, I don't know what it was. They fell in love with the founder story. Who knows? I would need to know more about that. But in that case, you're tapping into something there. But what we would more likely be doing, let's use the one that we were talking about before. Let's combine our examples. So we've got the person that wants to target the HR solution, right? To eliminate fraud. How fun would that be on a wait list? Nothing happens, right? I'm just going to sit around, and then when you release it, if it still feels relevant, then maybe I stick around, maybe I do something with it. Rather than doing that, why don't we start adding value to their lives now, so that when we have the value we want them to pay for, they're much more likely to do so. So my thought is it's not don't build audience, of course. Like, I'm the first one to tell you, like, start building audience a long time ago is the time to build it. But do something valuable with and for the audience.
I'm hearing the principle all comes down to value, which is the why they would get on the wait list in the first place. And if that why is not strong enough, that's the deprecating asset that you're talking about. Sure, they might have said, well, yeah, I'll check it out when it comes up, put me on the wait list. But then time passes, things change. And then 6 months later, it's like, why am I getting this email? Like, there's no impetus. But then let's say you've got like a video game and you can get access, and it's going to be a closed beta for the first people that sign up to come test it. And you get a special
value.
Yeah, a special weapon or skin or something. Why? So if you can answer that question, why, and it really makes sense, then that's the reason that you build a waiting list. But there are multiple reasons to give them value. And so if you can change that up and give them value, like download our free white paper and stay tuned for our newsletter, that could be something that's way more valuable than wait for our product to be out.
No one has ever been excited about waiting for a product, right? Even not the waiting. You might be excited for the product. You might be willing to wait. And there are things like, people camping out in front of Apple stores waiting for the new iPhone to release. It used to happen, remember? That's anticipation of the outcome. But there's also a limit to that. People weren't camping out for 3 weeks. They weren't camping out for a month. 24 hours, fine. But I think it comes back to just think about, if you're going to spend the time and effort and you are going to have them engage with you, they're going to give you their trust, their email, their time, whatever it is, good use of it on both sides. Right? Really make sure that you're leveraging that opportunity and just give them something of value, right? And think about, based on how much time you have between now and the product release, so I'm going to speak specifically to the founder that asked the question now, think about the amount of time between now and the product release. What's a really cool high value thing that you could help people solve between now and then that is also a really great stepping stone for your actual solution, right?
If you capture that transaction and you show that more people are willing to interact with you, and investors are going to see that, and they know. Everybody needs to understand this. Investors are not dumb. Investors aren't just going to look at a wait list or everyone that signed up and just put a comment on Twitter, yeah, I'd like it, and think that that's a valuable signal. But if you can do everything that Ryan said and get them engaging with you, adding a little more friction, they've downloaded it, they've interacted with you, and you show that to the investor, then that is worth so much more than just a wait list.
Yeah, the wait list is just going to be a number at some point, and that number is going to be depreciated based on the investor's assumption around, how long have you been building this list? I talked to somebody once, they were like, yeah, we're still building. We've got a customer wait list that we did with an original crowdfunding campaign that we did. Oh, how'd it go? Well, the crowdfunding campaign failed. Okay, that's too bad. We're bootstrapping it. Great, awesome. So we've got this list of like 4,000 people. I was like, that's really cool. It's a good list. And all of those committed to buy. He's like, no, not all of this, but they all signed up in some way or another. Okay, cool. When was this? 4 years ago. I'm like, oh my goodness. These people don't remember that you exist, right? Yeah. So if you do build a wait list, if you decide not to listen to my advice, and that's fine. Like, people build businesses without my advice all the time. If you decide to do that and you do build a wait list, when it's time to re-engage them, resell them on it. Perfect. One of the things that I'll see is like, you build a wait list and then you go, it's ready. And that's it. It's like, excite them about it again. Remind them why it was important. Remind them what it was that got them to say yes in the first place. Reconfirm all that stuff. Resell them on the concept. Then move them through. If you're going to do a wait list, at least do it right.
I've seen people do countdowns. They allow people to re-opt in. Like, there are many techniques, but I like your point, and I always appreciate that you add nuance to just get in there. I'm more like a bull in the china shop. Let's do it. And then you're like, oh, hang on a sec. Everybody, this has been amazing. We didn't have time to get to what we were going to talk about because all these questions were great, Ryan.